Hello everybody, Josh12 back here again with another video, and I'm here to give you my official review for Nanatsu no Taizai, the 7 Deadly Sins anime. Now, back when I was doing my One Punch Man review of episode 11, I suggested to my viewers who hopefully enjoy my anime reviews thus far to really suggest other and recommend other anime series that you would like me to view and watch, and of course give you my reviews for them. And I really want to dedicate my channel, especially for next year. I know there's a whole bunch of comic book stuff that I can't wait to do, but I also really want to dedicate my channel to more anime stuff, because that's something that I really want to focus my channel towards, other than just the movie, TV shows, and comic books I've been doing this year alone. But with that being said, One Punch Man has been a very interesting, amazing show to start off on, outside of my Dragon Ball obsession, of course. And unfortunately, considering the fact the show is coming to a close, with a second season possibly happening in the near future, I suggested some shows to check out for me to review. And you guys suggested 7 Deadly Sins. And before getting into the show, I've heard some things about it. I've seen some glimpses of the manga and anime. I've seen other YouTubers and anime reviewers hype up the show and talk about it and praise it. So I saw some little things, but I don't know that much about the show. So I went in, I got suggested to check out the second season, which possibly will end up coming out in January, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, I took this time to go check out the previous season, the season that's been out already. And I checked out episode 1. I checked out possibly a little bit of episode 2, but I haven't watched the entire series as of now. But I have checked out episode 1 just to get a footing in as to what this show is all about and what I can expect for the overall series. And this is pretty much my review for it, so I hope you guys enjoy. This is my review for 7 Deadly Sins, episode 1, titled simply The 7 Deadly Sins. If you haven't seen this episode, please go check it out, because this review may contain spoilers. I'm pretty sure you can find this series quite easily, considering the fact that, if I'm not mistaken, Netflix picked it up, so I'm pretty sure you can just get it on Netflix. You can watch and binge watch the entire series, so check it out there. But that being said, getting into to episode 1, the first couple things that kind of really stand out to me is the narrative and the tone. It's kind of like all over the place. In the beginning of the episode, you kind of get this flashbacks of like the 7 Deadly Sins, the story, the overall lore, mythology of the 7 Deadly Sins, what they stand for, and of course you get some insight on the Holy Knights and the Kingdom of Lions, or Lionese, or some said shit. I don't know how to pronounce it, but overall you get the overall landscape of what this kingdom is, and essentially, in present day, the 7 Deadly Sins are kind of disbanded. They're all over the place. They're kind of fugitives of the kingdom, and they're mostly known as these warriors, these sword-wielding warriors, who are just the badasses, the creme de la creme of the kingdom, and they're pretty much considered they're considered the villains of this universe, if you will. But we don't know that much about them. We just know that they're on the run, they're wanted by the kingdom, and of course they're villains. But that being said, we get introduced to this new character called Meliodas, and he's like this little kid who like has this weird sword on his back, and he owns a bar for some reason, and he has this talking pig called Hawk. And somewhere down the line he comes across Princess Elizabeth, and Princess Elizabeth, essentially from the various brief episodes I've watched thus far, Elizabeth is the princess to the king of this kingdom, Kingdom Lionese or whatever, and essentially in this specific timeline, in this specific story, the Holy Knights, as they're called, essentially have taken over the kingdom, have throned the king, if you will, and are pretty much wreaking havoc. And Princess Elizabeth has gone on a journey, a quest, if you will, to find the 7 Deadly Sins and hopefully seek their help to take down this kingdom and take down the Holy Knights. And that's pretty much the brief narrative and story of the show. And the narrative and tone is kind of all over the place. Like the beginning, you kind of get like this Knights of the Round Table kind of feeling, and then you transition to your normal like shonen kind of like anime kind of stuff. You have a lot of weird, campy, comedic stuff, and then you have these weird mythologies that kind of go around when people are discussing the 7 Deadly Sins and their obsession with them, and of course their fear of them. And then you get introduced to Princess Elizabeth, which really changes the tone of the show all around. Like at first you're kind of getting like this very Lord of the Rings kind of Shire moments where it's like, You know, like, if you ever seen The Fellowship of the Ring, like, the opening sequence is kind of like the Shire with the hobbits and stuff. Everyone's just living peaceful. You know, Meliodas is living his own kind of life. He owns this bar, which is kind of stupid, and no one likes it for some reason, but they continue to go there, and Hawk is there for some weird, and he can talk. I don't know why, but he can talk. What are you gonna do? But then when you have Elizabeth come in, the show kind of changes. Like, the narrative kind of changes more or less from mythology and fantasy, and it goes more into, like, a quest for glory and championships and stuff like that. And she really has a goal to find the seven deadly sins, but she doesn't really know where to go, and she's really helpless, which is kind of the main thing I dislike about this character. I've heard various other people who discuss and review this show really hate on the character of Elizabeth, and I can see why now. Like, after seeing the critics kind of bash her a little bit when it comes to the anime community, I can see why. Elizabeth really doesn't have that much going for her. I mean, granted, she's the perfect princess, you know, beautiful, you know, just amazing looking kind of a creature. But she doesn't have that much depth. She doesn't have that much interest, and she has a goal, but she doesn't know how to execute it, and she doesn't really know where she's going. She's kind of all over the place, and she's also very, like, crybaby, kind of helpless, kind of a woman character, which I'm not really big on. When it comes to me and my anime female character taste, I like the more badassy chicks. I like the more chicks that are ballsy. I like the very awesome, epic kind of female characters, which anime is chock full of. And also chock full of various other kind of female characters. Like, you have your schoolgirls, you have your human-animal hybrids, you know, like the foxtail kind of chicks. Then you have, like, the demon girls, you have the ghost girls, the phantom girls, you have the super-powered ones, the aliens, you got, you know, the tech ones, you got the main protagonist ones. There are so many kind of female anime protagonists and antagonists in all of anime, but this one definitely goes under the belt of crybaby, helpless kind of chick. She's the damsel in distress. She's the definition of damsel in distress, which I'm not really big on. Granted, she looks good. She's a super hot anime character. What are you gonna do? But at the end of the day, we transition into the action. The show doesn't really, at least for me, the episode alone doesn't really get to pick up until halfway in. Like, the halfway point when we reach the knights try to take in Elizabeth and try to take down Meliodas, and then Meliodas, like, reveals himself to be one of the seven deadly sins. He is the dragon, and he has this sword which is broken but somehow destroys everything in its way, which doesn't make any that much sense. It looks cool, but doesn't really make that much sense. I'm just saying, like, how is that sword that's broken cause that much damage? I don't really understand it. I have to watch more of the series to really get the grasp of that. So please use spoiler tags if you're going to discuss the show in the comment section below. But that being said, the show really doesn't get to pick up until that point in time when you discover that he is one of the seven deadly sins, and he's actually been on the look and search to find them as well. So that's pretty much where you go from there. And of course, they're both fugitives of the kingdom. They both go on their quest to find the seven deadly sins and hopefully bring justice and bring, you know, honor back to the kingdom and take down the holy knights and all that kind of jazz that you expect from very fantasy-esque quest stories. But that's pretty much it. That's the episode. And as much as I kind of feel like I'm bashing it, I hope I'm not really sounding that much like that, because there is a lot that goes into this episode that's really cool and really awesome. The animation is really good. The artwork is really cool. I like the character of Meliodas, although I feel like he's a little too perverted and stupid for my taste. I feel like with a character with his reputation and his kind of skill level, you would expect him to be a little bit more badass, but he's kind of like your stereotypical kind of shonen kind of protagonist, where he's just kind of, he's cool looking, but he's dim-witted. He's super powerful, but he's kind of like very immature, and he looks like a kid. And we're probably just gonna like stick with that for the majority of the series. So, and also I wasn't really big on him like grabbing tits. Like, come on, like really, you're like, I know you're older than what you look like. I can take a limb and say that. And from based off future episodes and glimpses of the series have been shown, I'm pretty sure you've seen chicks before with tits. Why are you grabbing this girl's tits? It doesn't make that much sense to me. I mean, like, granted, it's an anime and there's a whole bunch of perverted sequences in all of anime. I mean, it's not that hard to find, but And of course, you have this character of Princess Elizabeth, what have you, who's super gorgeous, but do you really need to grab her tits for no reason? I mean, like, ooh, these are squishy. Like, no shit, they're fucking tits, you fucking asshole. That's just something I was really, it just didn't work for me. But with that being said, everything else is pretty cool. I like the story of it. I like the mythology of the seven deadly sins. And I like the fact that they're not exactly what you expect. Like, Meliodas is really cool, but he doesn't look cool. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't look like the epic badass character that you would expect to be the protagonist of this seven deadly sins group. I just like the contrast. I like the design of the world. I like the character of Hawk. I think he's pretty funny, even though he's just a talking pig. I think he's pretty hysterical. And also I love that ending shot where like Hawk is on top with the bar and it's like floating on this gigantic green pig for some reason, and then they just get up on it and go and leave and go on their quest to find the seven deadly sins. Like, that was really cool. I like the battle between that giant giant knight versus Meliodas' broken sword, which still doesn't make that much sense to me, but still was really cool how much of an impact it had on that dude. Overall, the episode was very good. It wasn't amazing. It didn't blow my socks off. It didn't blow my mind. It didn't freaking tingle my jingles. But it was still a pretty good first episode to an ongoing series. Although I feel like the narrative tone was a little bit all over the place. Like, I feel like it was trying to be too many things at once. And I feel like there's not that much depth in the show. I still have to watch the rest of the show, of course, to really get that. But as of right now with the first episode, I'm mildly pleased. I'm definitely interested into watching the rest of the show, and I definitely say thank you for recommending. But I think after watching the first episode, it feels like the show or the series alone may have been a little bit overhyped, if you will. Like, I can see why people like it, I can see why people really enjoy it, and I can see why people would want to recommend me for checking it out and reviewing it. But after seeing the first episode, and maybe that's just with the first episode, maybe the episodes and the show gets better with time. After hearing that Netflix kind of picked it up, it makes a lot more sense as to why the show feels that way. Because when you watch the show, it has that feeling of like, alright, this is an anime show that you watch, you enjoy, you really like, but you don't dedicate your entire life to. Like, this, I can see why Netflix would want to pick that up. Like, this is a binge-worthy show. It's not a show that you dedicate your entire life towards, and you're like, oh, this is the new week where the new episode comes up. Ah, shit, I gotta put on my cosplay. You know, I have to put on my Meliodas tattoo or what have you. You know, like, that's not the show. That's not that kind of... Maybe it is for some other people, but for me, this is a perfect show to binge watch on your free time and enjoy with friends. It's not the show that you dedicate your entire life to, but that's just my personal thoughts on the first episode. We'll see what happens once I watch and binge watch the entire show, and of course get into the second season, if you will, that I was initially recommended to review. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. My final verdict for episode 1 of Nanatsu no Taizai 7 Deadly Sins, the anime, has to be a good solid 6.5 out of 10. It's definitely above average. With that being said, let me know what you personally think in the comment section below. Did you love this episode? Did you love this show? Do you think I should continue to binge watch the show, or do you think I should check out a different anime? And that being said, also suggest other animes out there. If there's other ongoing epic shows like this one, or One Punch Man, or Dragon Ball, or whatever, comment below, suggest and recommend them, and I'll definitely check them out. And if they're awesome, I'll review them. So, that being said, shameless plug time. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jonch12. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And this has been Jonch12.